A viewer recently brought up a good point regarding Mike Desantis, who presently holds the Lucchese's acting boss position. As most people know, the official boss, Vic Amuso, is incarcerated at Butner Federal Prison and serving a life sentence. He's currently 90 years old, and when he passes, Desantis can likely become the official boss, or someone else can step in instead. Over the past few years, I've discussed numerous mob murders or conspiracies to kill people. Many years ago, the term push a button was used, which basically meant when a boss wanted someone killed, he sends the order to a member of his family. And since members were referred to as button men, the button represented a status as an inducted member. In my time, if during a conversation someone pinched their shirt, it was understood that whoever we were discussing was a friend, an inducted member. Hence, pinching of the shirt also represented a button. Nonetheless, not all hits are carried out by inducted members. For instance, associates would also be used, not only as a means to prove themselves, but as a stepping stone to becoming members. In fact, it was a requisite to being inducted. Most mob hits go according to plan, and they are planned out in many instances. The victim, trusting those who he considers friends, is easily lured into a trap. During the 1980s, Mikey Desantis was a Lucchese associate linked to a Bensonhurst crew headed by Lucchese captain Pete Chiodo. At the time, Chiodo was new to the position, which he was given in 1988, just a year after being inducted. Desantis himself would become a member in late 1989. In short, during this time, the Lucchese family had two Brooklyn crews, the Bensonhurst crew, which was originally headed by Christy Tick Faneri, and Paul Vario's Canarsie crew. Over time, those crews would be merged, thus becoming the Brooklyn faction, my former crew, despite the fact that we were based out of Staten Island. A large portion of the family's current power base were members of both the old Brooklyn crews. As the Lucchese family headed into the 1990s, total chaos and destruction ensued. The bosses were on the run, and Gaspipe began running a splinter group to carry out his orders. Prior to Vic's arrest in 1991, there were numerous hits and attempted hits that took place. One person who came under the fugitive boss's radar was Joe Martinelli, the principal owner of Northbury Concrete. Initially, Martinelli had an arrangement with Christy Tick where he would give him $100,000 a year in exchange for projects sent his way, which is of extreme importance to a construction contractor. But when Vic and Gas took the family over, Christy Tick was in prison, and Martinelli stopped making those contributions, or at least not to the extent that he had in the past. The true reason why he didn't want to pay was that he was no longer receiving job referrals like he once did. So the decision was made to hit Martinelli, and the order was passed to Lucchese's acting boss at the time, Al Diaco, who related to Pete Chiodo, in order to get it done. Chiodo was able to convince Martinelli that his presence was needed at a construction meeting. So while at the wheel in Staten Island, Chiodo had Martinelli in the passenger seat with Mikey Desantis in the back seat. And the only reason Desantis would be there would be to act as a backup shooter. Nevertheless, at some point, Chiodo pulled over, pulled out a pistol, pointed it at Martinelli, and squeezed the trigger a few times. But nothing happened. Naturally, Martinelli was spooked and wanted to know what was going on. And Chiodo played it cool and told him it was a toy gun. So why, if it's true that Desantis was a backup shooter and didn't shoot Martinelli that day, remains unclear. On May 8, 1991, Chiodo also made the fugitive boss's hit list, and the hit would have been successful had it not been for his size, which was the reason he survived after taking 12 bullets. The next person on the hit list was Al Diaco, and the first hint of trouble was he was taken down from the acting boss position, and then they began taking members of his crew away from him. Which, if you have a captain's position with the crew, and all of a sudden members of your crew are being put with other people, the likelihood of you no longer being in good standing with your bosses is very high. In one meeting with the fugitive bosses, Diaco tried speaking with Vic, who at first didn't want to speak with him. But at the urging of Gaspipe, he did agree to listen to Diaco. But no sooner did Diaco begin speaking, did Vic shut him down again. He obviously wanted nothing to do with him. And one key point Diaco was able to bring out was that the messages being relayed to the bosses from Patty Testa and Georgie Neck were not accurate, which was exactly what was taking place. It's important to be mindful that during this time period, Gaspipe was undermining Vic's authority as the boss of the family. So there comes a point where the Lucchese leadership did their usual and falsely labeled Diaco as being no good. A meeting was set on September 18, 1991, which was held at the Kimberly Hotel in Manhattan. The Lucchese's have used rooms there in the past for meetings, so this would not be out of the norm for Diaco. At first, a sit-down took place with Bonanno administration members Anthony Spiro and Sal Vitale. When that meeting ended and the Bonannos left, the Lucchese's were supposed to discuss family business, which they did begin doing. And when Diaco was ready to leave, Frankie Lastarino stopped him and told him that Mikey Desantis was on his way up to the room to speak with him. And let me put that into perspective. The group of guys in the hotel room represented the Lucchese's ruling panel. To have a member like DeSantis show up to an administration meeting is 100% abnormal. And despite it being the summer months, DeSantis walked in with jeans and a sweatshirt, and more crucially, he was wearing a bulletproof vest underneath it. At one point, he leaned over to place a bag on the floor, and Diaco spotted a gun in the small of his back. Now, DeSantis is never supposed to bring a pistol to a meeting, especially one with administration members, unless he was told to. Then DeSantis announced that he had to use the bathroom and was in there for quite a while. When he did exit, Diaco noticed he no longer had the pistol. As most of us know, Diaco did manage to get out of the hotel with his life. If you haven't liked this video yet, please take a second to do so, as it helps with YouTube's algorithm. And if anyone would like to show their appreciation for videos like this, or more importantly, help me to continue making them, you could do so by donating with the Super Thanks icon down below, or the PayPal Cash App links in the video's description. As previously stated, I'm not sure what DeSantis' role was with the attempt on Martinelli. If he was indeed a backup shooter, then he screwed up. Regarding the Kimberly Hotel incident, if he was only supposed to put a gun in the bathroom, then he did what he was told. But it makes no sense, because before Diaco entered the room, some of the Lucchese members had access to it and could have easily planted the gun there. If DeSantis was supposed to kill Diaco, then he also screwed up. Here's the bottom line. Whatever may be the case, these two hits DeSantis was sent on, both targets survived, which is not a good look.